You went to Harvard and you dropped out. Have you ever thought how your life could be better off if you had gotten your Harvard degree?
Well, I'm a weird dropout because I take college courses all the time. I love learning company courses and things, so I love being a student. And there were smart people around, and they fed you, and they gave you these nice grades that made you feel smart. So I feel it was unfortunate that I didn't get to stay there, but I don't think I missed any knowledge because whatever I needed to learn, I was still in a learning mode.
You have for years, ever since you were a little boy, I hear, been called a nerd. Do you care? Does it hurt you?
Well, nerd means a lot of things. I'm somebody who can sit and read a book about science for hours on end, and I don't mind being labeled as somebody who finds that interesting.
There is hardly a day in which something is not written about Microsoft. It has become almost a frenzy. You're being called the evil empire. You forget being called a nerd. You are now being called arrogant, greedy, the devil. You've read all this stuff. I've heard that this has been said. What do you say about all of this?
Well, it's a very competitive business. And
that's all?
Oh, no, absolutely. When you have the level of success that we've had, when you have a business that's important as this with this many competitors, you're going to have people saying some nasty things. And so you have to learn a little bit not to take it too personally. When I started Microsoft, I didn't think of it as all that risky. I mean, I was so excited about what we were doing. It's true I could have gone bankrupt, but I had a set of skills that were highly employable, and in fact, my parents were still willing to let me go back to Harvard and finish my education if I wanted to.
You've always got a job with Bayville.
And the thing that was scary to me wasn't quitting and starting the company. It was when I started hiring my friends, and they expected to be paid. And then we had customers who went bankrupt, customers that I counted on to come through. And so then I got this incredibly conservative approach that I wanted to have enough money in the bank to pay a year's worth of payroll, even if we didn't get any payments coming in. And I'm almost true to that the whole time. We have about 10 billion now, which is pretty much enough for the next year. Anyway, if you're going to start a company, it takes so much energy that it better overcome your feeling of risk. I don't think that you necessarily, if you're going to start a company, should do it at the start of your career. I think there's a lot to be said for working for a company, learning how they do things. If you're young, it's hard to go lease premises. They made that hard for me. You couldn't rent a car when you were under 25 at the time, so I was always taking taxis to go see customers. People would, people say, well, we're going to go have a discussion in the bar. Well, I couldn't go to the bar. But that's fun, because I'll tell you, when people are first skeptical and they think, oh, this kid doesn't know anything, then when you show them you've really got a good product and you know something, they actually tend to go overboard and they think, whoa, they know a lot. Let's really do an incredible amount with these people. So our youth, at least in this country, was a huge asset for us once we reached a certain threshold. It is hard. It's hard to hire older people because they'll be a little bit conservative about whether they should come and take the risk. And it took 3 or 4 years before we could go out to the normal sort of employment pool. But those problems that come with starting a firm, you better think of those as part of the pleasure, part of the challenge that is part of the excitement. Age 12 to 18. In my case, it was writing software where I would think I was good, and then I would meet somebody who would tell me I wasn't, and I would look at their code, and I went through 4 sort of comeuppances of, oh, that's what a really good programmer looks like. And part of the reason I worshiped Digital Equipment was eventually it was a couple of their very best programmers who came and shared with me how they thought about it, how they did things. And I had studied their code, there were several people who were so key to my doing that. So today, I would go into software, which today that means going into artificial intelligence. Computers still can't read. They cannot take a book of information and say pass an AP test on that book. And that's a solvable problem, but it's a knowledge representation problem. And, I've always wanted to solve that problem. I'm jealous that maybe one of you gets to work on that. I'm, unlikely to go back and be hands-on in that way, but it's the juiciest problem ever. I've thought about it for a long time. So I would go into AI. Computers, when I was young, were super expensive, and my friend Paul Allen and I actually snuck into places at the University of Washington where they had computers that weren't being used at night. And so we were fascinated by what the computer could do, but very few people were getting exposure. We had to go out of our way, and we were lucky that we did it all. And so then when the idea of moving the computer onto a chip that Intel would make, and that would make the computer literally millions of times cheaper than the ones we were using, so both more powerful and available to people on a personal level, then the idea of, okay, it would be very different. The software you needed, the way the industry would work. We were super lucky to be there when that was happening.
So what did your family think? Did they say there's something wrong with this young man who wants to just do computers?
They knew I was obsessed with computers, that I would skip athletics, that I'd go in overnight, that I'd leave the house sometimes when they prefer I wouldn't go work at night on these things. And so it was kind of considered a little strange. And the big moment was when I said, instead of going to part of my senior year, that I wanted to go work for a company writing software. So they were great about allowing that to be my hobby. If you want to have impact, usually delegation's important. Although, individual contributors in terms of inventing a drug or a new approach to things, that's phenomenal. So when Microsoft first got started, I wrote most of the code, and everybody else's code I read and kind of rewrote. And that got us up to 10 people. And then I had to say to myself, okay, we're going to ship code that I didn't edit. And that was hard for me. But I kind of got over that. Then I still said, okay, I'm going to interview everyone, and I'm going to at least look at samples of their code. Well, that got us up to about 40 people. And that was at a point where I had sold way more software than we could write because everybody was so impressed. And I thought, well, I need to collect enough money to keep hiring all these people. But the demand was so high that we were actually falling behind. That's when I hired Steve. And Steve figured out, how to control what promises I made to people, and B, how to hire lots of people, and really good people, and create organizations and teams. So I delegated to Steve that, and he was constantly saying to me, okay, we're going to hire programmers that you've never met. And I'd say, no, we're not. And then he would show me numerically that the constraint wasn't going to work, so then I said, okay, then I would, know all the managers of the people. And so over time, and of course, I could say the quality per person was falling monotonically, according to me. But, large problems, if you want to, write the most popular office productivity software, that one person absolutely can't do that. You can write pretty code. So everyone has to decide what scale of organization they want to work in. Eventually, my role was very much as a leader and a reviewer of managers, but the top people, and I hired some super experienced people, I would make sure they were pursuing a common vision and they were well coordinated. But in terms of a lot of management stuff, they were way better than I was. Now I had to have the framework to know what mix of skills that we needed and when they were working well enough together. But a lot of my value added was picking, say, to do graphics user interface or to do an integrated office type thing, or to go global and not use agents to have Microsoft be present all over the world. And so yeah, picking what you're good at and how you find the other people to fill in those things, that's super important. And most founders aren't able to scale that up and kind of give up the hands-on things that they used to get a lot of pleasure and comfort from.